Welcome to Boulder City City Council. We would like to call the meeting to order. Madam City Clerk, confirmation of posting and roll call, please.
Thank you. The agenda was posted in accordance with Nevada open meeting law. All members are present with the exception of Councilmember Matt Fox.
Thank you. And count him present if he arrives. And we will now have the invocation by our own Joseph Stubitz, if everyone would rise, and then that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance while we're still standing. Thank you. Mr. Stubitz.
Father God, we thank you for our city. We thank you for our leaders. We pray for wisdom as we enter the season of Advent. And we love you, God. We thank you for all that you do for us on a daily basis. We're so blessed to be in this town and this community of Boulder City. We pray that during this time we look out for each other, look out for our neighbors, look out for our friends, and look out for those that we may not consider friends, but that we can become friends. We thank you, Lord, for all that you do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Join with us in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Without any other public announcements, we'll move to public comment. For those who want to call in, seeing no one here in the audience who is here, if you could call 702-589-9629. And Madam City Clerk, is there any written public comment?
No written comments were received.
And is there anyone here who would like to come up and say anything in public comment while you still can? And we will wait a moment and see if the phone line could be accessed by someone. 702-589-9629. Public comment is open. See no one on the phone lines, no one here. We will close public comment at this time and move to approval of the regular agenda. Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Staff would like to request item numbers 8 and 9 be removed from the agenda, noting both items will be brought back at a later date.
I would accept a motion for approval of the regular agenda as amended.
I move to approve the regular agenda as amended.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? See no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. It's unanimous. Thank you. And we'll move to approval of the consent agenda. I would accept a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve this consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Unanimous. Thank you. We will move to the regular agenda. Presentations. We will start with item on the regular agenda. We'll come back to item number 6, and we'll go to item number 7 for possible action and consideration of Bill 2007, amending Title IX. Is there any presentation on that?
City Manager, do you want to present?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight, the action that's being requested is that the City Council consider adoption of this bill. It would update the Boulder City Municipal Code by amending Title IX, Public Ways and Property, Chapter 1, Public Works Permits, Section 5, Permit Terms, Subsection B, Permit Length to address permit lengths for temporary obstructions. So in Title IX, Chapter 1 of the Municipal Code, it does set forth provisions for work within the public right-of-way, and temporary obstruction permit lengths are typically of a shorter duration than other permits, and it's not currently listed in the code. So the bill does propose to add a shorter time length for temporary obstruction permits of 14 days. Typically, the policy has been for this permit type to have a permit length of 7 days. However, upon review of our previous years of temporary obstructions, a large number of applicants have requested at least one renewal of that time frame. And in order to better serve the applicants and make it easier to do business in Boulder City, we're recommending the permit length of 14 days. So I'm here for any questions you may have, and I believe our Public Works Director is also here for any questions.
Any questions? Councilman Walton?
I would just like either Mr. City Manager or Public Works Director to be a little more specific in ways that this is helping our businesses be more efficient in the way that they need to conduct business, and how working with City Hall is better because of this change, and what those implications are.
Sure. One of the things that we're doing is we're reviewing our permitting processes, trying to see how we can better serve the community through more efficient ways. And this is one of them, where we identified that the temporary obstruction permit was something that was always brought back for a second renewal. And instead of doing that, we went through and analyzed and figured that it would be better to do an additional 7 days for the initial application, which in our code, we actually state that you can do 2 renewals. So this will actually add 2 more weeks onto the permit, and it would eliminate the fact of coming back so soon to try to get a temporary permit done.
Is there a cost associated with this permit?
There is. Currently, it's $59 and change.
So we also eliminate the need to pay an additional fee for an extension. Right?
Correct. So instead of getting 2 weeks, you're getting a month.
Right. Okay. I don't have any more questions, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to have that clarified and stated on the record.
Sure.
So if I could interpret what you're saying, it sounds like we're being more friendly to people who need help that they always could get, but they had to turn around and apply for it again.
Correct. We're actually, we've heard some concerns with it and identified it and addressed it.
Thank you.
You're
Any
welcome.
other questions or concerns? I would accept a motion to approve number 7, bill number 2007.
Move to approve bill number 2007.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. It's unanimous in the affirmative. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We will move to a presentation. And the presentation on number 6 will be regarding the all-in Community Sustainability and Climate Action Plan in Southern Nevada. And we have someone who is here, and this looks like it's Kim Lundgren and somebody else. If you could identify yourselves.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Marcy Henson. I'm the Director of Clark County's Department of Environment and Sustainability. And so we really appreciate you having us out tonight to answer questions about this proposed interlocal. We have been working since early 2000 on sustainability and climate action planning here in Southern Nevada. And we've tried to take a regional collaborative approach to that planning. And it's resulted in an overall regional plan that has prepared us for the opportunity to work collaboratively on implementation actions that would help sustainability in our region. And it will help position us to be working together to help build capacity among all of the agencies who sign on, and to also help us be competitive for some of these federal funds that are coming from Washington, D.C. So I'm going to introduce Kim Lundgren. She is a planning consultant that the county's hired, and your staff has been incredible during this whole entire planning process. And Kim helps lead our input from all of the cities on the planning process and on the actions, and has helped facilitate our discussions around this interlocal agreement. One thing that I'd like to stress that was very important to the county, it's been important to all of the cities, is that this is a completely voluntary interlocal agreement, and it's simply a commitment to work collaboratively. It doesn't bind any of your agencies to certain decisions or to implementing certain actions. You have your own autonomy, you have your own priorities, and we want to respect your decision-making in what you choose to do in the community. This is simply an interlocal agreement that commits to working collaboratively where you all think it's most important as a priority in your community. So with that, I'd like to introduce Kim.
Before you do that,
Sure.
point of clarification, if we have a staff that's incredible, does that mean they don't have credibility, or they do have credibility?
They have significant credibility with us and our team, for sure, yes.
All right, appreciate that.
You know, stupendous, incredible, amazing, I could go on and on. They have been great to work with.
Please do. Feel free. All right. Ms. Lundgren, please.
Good evening, counselors. I'm Kim Lundgren with Kim Lundgren Associates. As Marcy Henson just mentioned, I'm the lead consultant that's been working with the county over the last 3 years, developing the All-In initiative, and now supporting and helping facilitate the Regional Climate Collaborative. I think there's a presentation. Oh, you're seeing it. Okay. There it is. Okay. So what I wanted to do tonight was just give you all a little bit of an update and overview of what we've been doing the last 3 years, and then what the opportunity, the path forward is, and why this interlocal agreement is coming at this time. So as Marcy was noting, this is something that has been taken seriously by the county for several years. Of course, unfortunately, we're all feeling the effects of climate change, particularly here in southern Nevada, whether it be from mega drought or extreme heat, fires. It's impacting our community, our citizens, and our economy. So the idea of the All-In Clark County initiative is to help to build a plan to ensure a sustainable and resilient future for all in the region, particularly in the face of a changing climate. The process began back in 2020 when the county first said, we should take a look at our own operations first. And so the first plan that was developed was a government operations sustainability and climate action plan, and that was very focused in on the Clark County specific government operations. Very quickly, though, there was an opportunity where there had previously been a regional greenhouse gas emissions inventory, and of course greenhouse gases are the primary source of climate change. And so there was an opportunity and a need to update the regional greenhouse gas inventory, and the county stepped up to do that on behalf of the whole region. And so we looked at the whole region cumulatively, as well as each individual community, and I'll get to that in a second. In parallel with that emissions inventory piece, that's where we're looking at the emissions, what are the sources of greenhouse gases, what's causing climate change. Then on the other side of the hazards and the impacts, things that are already happening. And so the county requested a region-wide climate vulnerability assessment to understand what are the vulnerabilities, what are the risks that the region has in your infrastructure, in your economy, public health, social systems, making sure that we can identify those and find opportunities to enhance them so that they're more prepared for the changing climate. This is just a quick graphic showing the results of the community-wide greenhouse gas inventory. It was conducted for the calendar year 2019. As you can all imagine, 2020 was a bit of a blip year, so not a true picture of our emission sources. But this is fairly typical of a U.S. region where buildings are going to be your number one source, transportation following right behind. So building and transportation are very much our primary sources of emissions. It's the burning of fossil fuels through for the generation of electricity, natural gas in our homes, and then looking at transportation, both personal and commercial vehicles. And then, of course, there is a small percentage, 12.5% is solid waste. And that's particularly because you've got the landfill here in the region. And then just small pieces for wastewater and agriculture. As I noted, as part of the process, the county wanted to make sure that all of the cities were also getting value out of this very specifically. And so we broke down all of the community-wide emissions to a municipal level for all the cities. This is Boulder City's profile. You can see you have about 1% of the regional population and about 1% of the emissions, a smaller community. But again, its buildings and transportation are our big opportunities for reducing emissions and saving money. On the climate hazard side, a lot of these you're pretty familiar with, I'm sure. Dealing with the extreme heat has grown to be challenging. Your days over 100 are growing each year. That requires an increased demand in cooling. Urban heat island has been a big focus in the region. There's a lot of great work that's being done out of RTC and other places to try to make sure that we're identifying where are we most vulnerable to urban heat and who are our community members that require more. Again, this is to identify what are the opportunities to enhance this. How can we protect our community and make sure that everybody's safe? Drought is an ongoing challenge here in the region, and SNWA has been a big partner with this. Looking at the wildfire, a lot of that is impacts that you're getting from California, but there are a few local hazards related to wildfire. And then flooding. You get some of those extreme storms and all of a sudden flash flooding, which we know is very dangerous. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's very unfortunate that we're now in the space where every day you can turn on the news and see the impacts of climate change. I personally have been working in this space for over 20 years at the local level. I was a municipal sustainability director, and I started that at the beginning of this century, which sounds kind of funny, but I remember back then it was really challenging to think about how could we describe for everyone what a changing climate would look like. We weren't having the same impacts then. And what's really interesting is everyone would always put this slide up of a polar bear that was drifting off from a piece of, a glacier that broke off, which, of course, if you love polar bears, it tugs at the heartstrings, but it doesn't connect you to your day-to-day, right? You're not going to see a polar bear walking down the street. Now, within the time that I've been in this career, we're seeing these impacts everywhere all the time. I could have a 100-slide presentation of all the different impacts around the world. So unfortunately, the urgency is there. The fortunate side is that we have all the solutions we need today. And as Marcy mentioned, and I'm going to dive into a little bit more, is there's a lot of federal funding now. It's kind of a historic opportunity to take advantage of and make sure this region is getting its fair share of that money to be more resilient to a changing climate. So the All-In Community Plan was that last piece where we worked in an integrated fashion, very inclusive process, all of this All-In initiative. The whole idea was we need to bring everyone to the table early on. And we did have representatives from Boulder City as part of this, helping us map this out, as well as working on the greenhouse gas inventory. The plan is split into 6 focus areas, kind of our core areas that we're looking at: clean and reliable energy, connected and equitable mobility, diverse and circular economy, resilient and healthy community, smart buildings and development, and sustainable water systems. These are all the areas where you either have emissions or opportunities for addressing resilience. And those are the areas where we've established a series of goals, strategies, actions, as well as metrics to track what we're doing. We had 4 meetings of an advisory group. We had about 65 organizations that actively participated throughout the region in these meetings regularly. We had invited over 100, but we had pretty good participation from those who were able to engage. 3 things that came up a lot were, what are going to be those priorities that we need to think about in the short term? What are we going to be moving forward on? One of the big things that was brought up a lot in the engagement, and I should note there was also a ton of community engagement, public engagement. We, through social media, through surveys, through attending events, even having virtual forums, because we did this during COVID, we were able to reach over 220,000 people in the region. But something that came up a lot was that we need to help grow climate literacy here. We need to educate folks a bit more to understand what are the impacts of climate change, and what are the benefits to you to moving in a way that helps you be more resilient to a changing climate. And so one of the big priorities that came out of the planning process was to create a county-wide climate education program. Another area, as you saw, buildings are a big challenge, particularly existing buildings. New buildings, new construction, we do have ways that we can improve those. But somebody's home, how do you help them improve it? We have some incentive programs, they're not doing enough, and there's a lot of efficiency opportunities. There's a program out there now that it's energy program stacking. It's not the best name, but it's a explanation of it is if you can imagine a resident of Boulder City wants to put in improvements in their home, they would come to a one-stop shop, and that one-stop shop would help them look at their whole house, not just for energy, but also for water, maybe mold issues, any type of issue within their home that they need improved. And then the one-stop shop does this program stacking where they're looking at all of the different opportunities for funding or financing, tax rebates, credits, anything like that that exists. So they get a whole package, and then they can choose what makes the most sense for them based on their priorities and their budget. That's what that energy program stacking model is about, and it was identified as one of the high priorities from the all-in planning process. And then the last priority was this regional climate collaborative. When we had meetings with all of the municipalities, and we did come here when we had completed all of the pathways assessments. So once we did the inventory, we knew where we stood. We know that science tells us we have to get to zero emissions by 2050. It's that how do we get there? That becomes the challenge. And so our team did a full analysis to create what we call the pathways so that you understand what it looks like to get to 2050. It's a lot of work. And the county made sure that we took that information not only to the county leadership, but also to each of the cities as well as the agencies to talk through what this meant for the region. And through that process, and through other meetings that we had with the cities as well as SNWA and RTC, the whole idea of having a informal, I should say, but a collaboration so that there were opportunities to work together and take advantage of the benefits of leveraging each other's resources, knowledge, as well as funding. And so that's what we'll dive into today. So the purpose is to really facilitate this region-wide collaboration, as Marcy noted. And as I noted, the concept came up during the all-in community planning process, but by the time the plan was approved by the Clark County Board of County Commissioners in April of this year, we had already heard about the EPA's Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program. And that was a big chunk of money that was available to the region, and just coincidentally was going to require that the region work collaboratively together. So it was serendipitous that this was the path the region was already on. But the need for it isn't just about this money. It is about addressing these challenges together and recognizing that we're stronger together than individually. These hazards from climate change transcend government boundaries and jurisdictional boundaries, and so the opportunity to pool resources and really leverage each other's expertise and experience really bodes well to sharing the benefits that come with taking action on climate. The regional collaborative was very clear that they wanted to focus on specific goals. One, of course, which Marcy noted, is around capacity building and convening, just coming together, learning from each other, bringing experts to the table so that every city, the county, all the agencies have the most up-to-date science, data that you need to make the decisions for your community. Also, a big piece of this was, can we deliver as a region this community-wide education campaign? It was something we heard from survey respondents from every city, as well as unincorporated Clark County, that education was going to be key. Working together to take action on climate solutions. Some of these solutions are very expensive. And so when we work together, you can support each other and have it not feel like as much of a financial hit on any one individual organization, but also then you get to reap the benefits collectively as a group. And so recognizing that there's opportunities to work together there. and then really sharing those various resources, the financial as well as human and technological, so that everyone was getting the benefits of the potential positive outcomes. A couple of key provisions that everyone wanted to make sure of, that, we had conversations about this, but everyone felt to start this, it should be voluntary. We should voluntarily be choosing to come into this to collaborate and work together. The collaborative really wants to make sure it's respecting independent decision-making authority, but also making sure that every participating entity can reap the value and the benefit. And as I noted, these federal dollars started coming out, and these opportunities were coming out as this plan was getting finalized. And actually, because this process was already underway, we've really positioned Southern Nevada very well to take advantage of a very large chunk of money in federal dollars, particularly the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant, where there's already been funds brought in for the region to prepare for this. You have to put together another climate action plan, but that's a whole nother conversation. But it's giving you opportunity to be eligible for implementation dollars, which is what we really want to get to. We've done a lot of planning. We're ready to implement. And then lastly, just focusing in on the various participation roles. This could evolve over time and be adjusted, but the idea is that Clark County has stepped up to be the convener and the facilitator of this. They're also going to be the ones that hold on to the data, do the annual reporting of the progress on all-in actions and goals, and really helping kind of spearhead it for the region. But then every participating entity has the opportunity to be working collaboratively, breaking into possible working groups related to specific areas of interest for your city. Just this whole idea of working together. Right now, the regional collaborative is very focused on some of the federal dollars because it's very timely. And then the working groups, these are just examples of what they could look like, but they align with the all-in focus areas. And so what we're hoping tonight that you will do is vote to approve the interlocal agreement. It has been approved already by Clark County Board of County Commissioners, the City of Henderson, and SNWA. And then the remaining cities and RTC are voting on this next month. I do want to note there was one error in the version that you originally got, and that was posted online. Well, first, it still had the draft watermark, but there is a final version that I understand you were handed today, a printed copy of. Just want to make note, the only significant change was that what was on your draft version, number 11, has been removed entirely. And that was just a piece around voting, and there really isn't any voting that this collaborative will be doing at this time, because every participating entity will have their own authority to make the decisions if they want to collaborate or not. So there was no need to have a vote there. And so apologies that you did not get that originally. And I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Indeed.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I'll limit these to questions, not comments,
Okay.
for the sake of your time. Generally speaking, we realize that when we receive federal funds, there are some what we like to call strings attached, right? So the question generally is, I will make one note though, if you take the Climate Pollution Reduction Act, right, and you make an acronym out of that, you've probably already done that.
They do
equates
it for
to
us.
CPR, right? So CPR, for those of us in the medical world, we're always concerned about the resuscitation or preservation of life, and in this area, the preservation of our quality of life through this climate action. So anyway,
Yeah.
I just want to make that comment. It wasn't lost on me. So what strings, generally speaking, could be or are attached to receiving federal funds as a collaborative group here in the region?
So this interlocal agreement is meant to be agnostic from any particular funding stream. There is a grant that we're looking at for the CPRG program. that will have some other requirements that I believe we would come to you for a separate agreement on, so that it would be very time-limited to just that grant. The intention of this interlocal is to be a little bit more overarching, and that way it exists with or without these federal dollars. It's an agreement by the region to say, yeah, you know what, this is a regional problem, we want to work together, and as it makes sense for us to do so, we're going to do it. And that's specifically because of what you're saying, there are strings attached. And so the thinking is, at least for this particular project, with the climate pollution reduction grant, they do require a memorandum of agreement that requires much more specificity as to what everyone's role will be, what you're going to be doing, and so we would bring that to you separately.
Thank you. That was a great answer for the general question. And you answered this already, but I'll make the question just so it's on the record. It was about ongoing, right? And the question was going to be, will there be continued local municipality staff participation? And you did answer that with, in fact, that yes, there will be ongoing, maybe working groups or however that evolves with continued involvement, not just accepting it and then passing it off to, county administrators, but that we will continue to be involved. Fair enough?
That would be the hope, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And my last question for now is, how do the all-in 6 focus areas align with either the EPA focus areas or with the CPRG grant focus areas that may have already been identified?
Generally speaking, they align because they are the sectors where you would find greenhouse gas emissions or where you would have impacts to climate change. So, but there's not necessarily a requirement that there be alignment in those, just simply whatever action you put forth to receive funding for, that it meets their criteria.
And these 6 will, generally speaking, meet their criteria.
Yes,
to start with, at least.
Yes, focusing in on these areas. It's very common that these are going to be the areas that you look at in a sustainability and climate action plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thanks,
you.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, and thank you for coming and sharing this with us. I saw on page 99, it talked a little bit about that we would share financial, human, and technological resources. And I think that my question follows Councilman Walton's a little bit. When you talked about federal dollars coming in, do you have specifics to how these dollars would be allocated? If you did get these dollars, would it just be specifically for the education portion, or would it be distributed for actual applied uses?
So it's going to vary by each of the grant opportunities that exist. We have to, of course, align with what their requirements are. The way the climate pollution reduction grant program has worked is that they have 2 phases. The first phase was kind of just money delivered. So every state that wanted it, they didn't all take it, every state that wanted it received $3 million. The 67 largest metropolitan statistical areas, of which Clark County is one, received $1 million. Now, that $1 million and $3 million came with a lot of restrictions and strings. We have to complete what they call a priority climate action plan. We have to do specific analyses. Honestly, we have to do a lot of what we have already done, but we have to now do it with EPA's tools. As part of that, there's ongoing reporting. And so for that first planning grant, that the county has been the lead on that, and they have been using it so that we can meet the needs. The reason that the metropolitan statistical areas and the states were even going through this process, and why we even considered it when we had literally just finished the process, is because once you met all their restrictions and requirements for that $1 million, you become eligible for $4.6 billion. They have now put out the notice of funding opportunity for that implementation phase, which was phase 2 of that grant, and the grant amounts are anywhere from $200 to $500 million. For this particular grant, our initial conversations, and again, this would be something we'd have to come back to you for, Because the interlocal is that bigger picture. This will be very specific to this grant, and there will be others. I don't know if we'll have to come back for agreements on the others. Those are all going to be dictated by the federal government agency and what they're putting forth. So we're trying to navigate all of this for the region. But very specifically, absolutely, every city would need to see the value as well as unincorporated Clark County. And that's the only way we would be competitive with that grant, to be honest.
Thank you.
Please,
To help put it on the record, our department, the Department of Environment and Sustainability, we're one of the most regionally focused departments at Clark County. And so we certainly understand the value of collaboration and regional approaches. We do air quality, we do endangered species compliance, of which Boulder City is a permittee. And so, I'd just like to put on the record that when we're looking at these grants and the opportunities associated with them, we're being very sensitive to how the funds will be distributed, and that all of the participating cities see return on that, and that everyone sort of gets their fair share. As Kim said, depending on the grant will depend on what that fair share sort of means. But I would just like to put on the record that you have our commitment at Clark County that we would want to make sure that this money gets distributed across the cities and not just in unincorporated Clark County or in the Valley.
I appreciate that because I know sometimes we're not quite as big as some of our sister communities, and that I would hate to see us miss out on an opportunity if we choose to participate in some of these programs to help our residents here. So.
And just to give you a sense, Counselor, for the conversations we've had with the collaborative on the particular climate pollution reduction grant, we discussed it as a group, kind of taking what does everyone want? What does everyone want to see from this? The other thing to note with the climate pollution reduction grant is that the region can put forth one big application, which we will, but then anyone else can put their own forth. As long as it can't be the same project that the whole region's doing. They don't want you competing with yourselves. But if Boulder City wanted to put forth their own application at, a lower tier, then you would be able to do that. Yeah.
So if I'm understanding you correctly today, there's no, on this collaboration, it's just all voluntary at this point in time. So, and there's no financial commitment on our part other than letting a staff member go to this?
Correct.
Okay, and that's the basis just to start talking, is what this is all about?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure I understood that correctly. There
Yes.
was no financial cost that we didn't know about. So
No.
thank you.
Not at this time.
Thank you. So let's pretend we have a growth ordinance. So do we get extra credit for not growing and putting more residents all over the place like someplace else may be doing?
Well, I have to tell you, we're pretty good at telling a good story, and that's how you win grants, is explaining the stories and how the benefits are going to be brought to the community. So we will be looking for feedback as we're drafting the narrative for different grants and as opportunities come up, like how can we tell the best story for Boulder City, and how can we tell the best story for Southern Nevada, and how everybody's going to benefit, and how you're working as a region. I will say, just to give you a sense, and I know we're talking a lot about the climate pollution reduction grant, this region will be competing with 66 other metropolitan statistical areas, and I want to say 47 states for $4.3 billion. 0.3 went to the tribes. You are very well positioned for this money, and it's because of the work that everyone in this region has already been doing with the All-In program. You also lucked out that your MSA happens to just be the county. Others kind of got added into other states and folks they haven't worked with, but it really is putting you in a very good position because you've already demonstrated an ability to work together. You've already been demonstrating action in all your areas. I don't know how how much time or if you all had a chance to look at the all-in community plan, but you'll see throughout it in the different areas, we highlighted a best practice from every city, from the agencies. I believe we highlighted your electric police car, really showing that, hey, this region is taking action, we're all doing it and bringing value. And so, yes, there will be opportunities. It's going to always depend on what the grant looks like. I think for the purposes of this interlocal agreement, it's saying, hey, you know what, this collaboration has been working. As Marcy noted, the staff from Boulder City have been amazing, as have the staff that have come to all these meetings. There's great collaboration. Everyone's really excited to bring the most value, both to their own jurisdiction as well as to the whole region, because we rise and fall together, right?
Thank you, appreciate it. We don't mind the accolades or the credit or the opportunity to get more money. I'm not going to use swimming pool in a sentence right now. Oh, here we're going to. But obviously, we are interested in working together. We benefit from over-the-hill opportunities as they do us. So we're appreciative of you coming out and helping us. Any other questions? I would accept a motion to approve Resolution 7734.
I'll move to approve Resolution 34, sorry.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. I would just like to make some comments for the record. And I did appreciate the slide that highlighted that we have 1% of the regional population, 1% of regional emissions. Across the board in all of these climate issues, you'll find that consistency, that we're on the lower end of use of resources and climate-related concerns. But that doesn't mean that Boulder City's not concerned about being a good partner. And that even though our use or emissions or whatever of these 6 areas of focus might happen to be, we still recognize the opportunities to make improvements within our small community. And it allows us the luxury to be very methodical about it and follow a process that is sustainable for the community and not just a flash in the pan kind of thing that we did 5 years ago but we don't do anymore. And we can really have meaningful implementation. And I think we are thoughtful of that as council members as well as our staff. And we see that as a great benefit of our community. Boulder City is very proud of our position in the region and what our forefathers have created here and what we're striving to continue to maintain. And so it's great. I appreciate very much the words voluntary and collaborative. Very important. It's very reminiscent to after the events of 9/11. There was a lot of federal funding made available to communities around the turn of the century, as you used that term, for collaborative regional funds from the federal government, which allowed our community to benefit and to enhance the services that we offered, emergency services, police, fire, medical, and so forth. And so this following kind of that pattern is, if we can refer back to something that has followed this, that had success, we do. We appreciate the efforts of the county staff in this effort now that's pressing forward on us. I look forward to some new creative ways to make the programs, the incentive programs that you mentioned for particularly residential, that they're not doing enough, that we can find ways that they can do more and help homeowners that maybe need a little bump to help finance it on the front end rather than the back end, or whatever the creative ideas might be, so that we can create more efficiency in that area of focus. And you alluded to this, we are having great success collaborating across various agencies within the region currently. The RTC, the Water Authority, even Convention and Visitors Authority are doing things to save water and to make impacts that are effective in reducing the climate problems that we're facing. And so there's a lot of great collaboration already going on, and there's great success there. And Mr. Mayor, all of that leading up to, I'm very supportive of this idea. Collaboration equals money generally for the region, and to maximize that and incentivize that for our communities to seek those dollars would be great for our communities. I'll end my comments there.
Thank you. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we've had a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Unanimous in the affirmative. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank you very
Lundberg.
much.
And we will now go to regular business. Number 10 on regular business. Madam City Attorney.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Item 10 before you this evening is Resolution 7735. This resolution would request exclusion from the proposed class action settlement with the company 3M, as well as a family of companies known as the DuPont entities. And these settlements are being entered into as a proposed, as part of a class action settlement regarding the presence of what are known as PFAS in public water systems. PFAS. PFAS are known as forever chemicals, and that they don't break down, and they are in all public water systems, mostly at levels that are considered safe by the Environmental Protection Agency for drinking. But there are circumstances where there is the presence of PFAS, in these cases in groundwater, that is not safe. This results from a nationwide class action lawsuit involving jurisdictions from all over the United States. Involved an aqueous film forming foam that is widely used for firefighting and caused PFAS contamination in the groundwater. So Boulder City is a potential plaintiff in this class action, and that we fall in the definition of a public water system. Therefore, we either must file a claim or opt out of the settlement to propose our potential claims against the defendant, if any arise in the future. The damages in this lawsuit are largely measured by the costs of filtering, testing, and monitoring of the ongoing contamination of drinking water supplies. And due to the safe levels of PFAS in Boulder City's water, it is anticipated that any claim filed at this juncture by Boulder City would yield a nominal amount of settlement monies. Therefore, staff is recommending that the city opt out of the class settlement in order to preserve its claims in the event there are unsafe levels of PFAS in the water at some point that are attributable to these businesses. So with that, approval of this resolution would authorize city staff to file the necessary documents in order to opt out of the settlement. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? So if I could summarize, if we opt out, it keeps us in the running. If we have a problem in the future, that we can do our own or join into another litigation matter if we find ourselves in such a situation.
That is correct, Mayor.
Thank you. I'd accept a motion.
Mr. Mayor, please.
Go ahead.
I do have a question. I just want it stated for the record that if you could comment on the testing that the Southern Nevada Water Authority currently does for our water, and if there are any amounts of those chemicals found, and if they're above or below the EPA's safe amount regulations, please.
Yes, Boulder City does receive all of its water from the Southern Nevada Water Authority, and the Southern Nevada Water Authority does routinely test PFAS and against EPA regulations, and has determined that the levels of PFAS in Boulder City's drinking water are at a safe level. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's at a safe level lower than the recommended standard by the Environmental Protection Agency.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? I would accept a motion to approve Resolution 7735.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 7735.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving Resolution 7735 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you. It's in the affirmative. And we will move to number 11. Our city finance department will present the capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2025 through 2029. Thank you.
Angela Mananen, budget manager, and we're going to go through the draft 5-year CIP.
So the purpose of the capital improvement plan is to annually review and monitor the state of the city's capital equipment and infrastructure. It sets priorities for replacement and renovation based on needs, funding, alternatives, and availability of resources. The city shall annually review its 5-year capital improvement program, not only because it's the best practice, but it's also required by NRS. This includes the current status of the city's infrastructure, replacement and renovation needs, and potential new projects. In this planning process, we receive feedback from the department heads, residents, and advisory boards. We met with the Utility Advisory Committee, and they recommended 2 changes. Staff agreed with these changes, one of them being Substation 6 moving out 2 years, and also to transfer $300,000 from a solar field PRV project in fiscal year 25 to our ongoing copper service project. All projects ongoing and proposed shall be prioritized based on an analysis of current needs and resources and availability. All related costs for every capital projects, including not limited to operation, maintenance, and replacement costs, shall be fully identified by a funding source. So after we met with all the department heads and the utility advisory, and after reviewing resident suggestions, the 5-year plan includes 81 projects for a combined cost of $121.3 million. Fiscal year 25 includes 46 projects for a combined cost of $24 million. This number will change as we're currently waiting on quotes for 3 different water conservation projects. One being a tournament staging area at the Boulder Creek Golf Course, also rehabilitating 3 ponds at the golf course, and converting sprinkler heads from 360 degrees to 180 degrees. These are all water conserving projects, and this was a common suggestion from our residents. So this graph shows our 5-year funding resources for our capital improvement plan. It's a total of $121 million, or $121.3 million, and the majority of this, 36%, is coming from outside funding, which is $43.6 million, and of that, almost $30 million is coming from the FAA to help assist with the airport. 8.3 is coming from RTC, the Regional Transportation Commission, which helps supports our streets, and 5.3 is the Regional Flood Control. The enterprise funds, which is our utilities, airport, and cemeteries, is 27% at $32.5 million, and the majority of this being the electric fund at $22.7 million. Also funding is our surcharge fund of 2% of $1.8 million. Our voter-approved funding at 25%, which is $30.1 million, and the majority of that is going to be coming from the sale of the Track 350 of $20.2 million. The governmental fund funding is only 6%, and that is $2 million coming from the general fund, and also $5.2 million of various pool funding. So just for fiscal year 25, the funding sources is $24 million. Again, the majority of this funding is coming from outside sources of 33% at $7.9 million. The major funding source is the regional flood control of $5.1 million, 1.7 coming from the Regional Transportation Commission, and 1.1 coming from the FAA. The enterprise funds is 30% of the funding, which is $7.3 million, and the majority again is electric at $5.7 million. The golf course surcharges are 3% at $645,000. Voter approved funding is 14% or $3.3 million, and $1 million of this is coming from the sale of Track 350. Governmental funding is 20% or $4.8 million, and of that, $753,000 is coming from the general fund, and the pool is $3.9 million of various funding sources that we've set aside for the pool. And unless anyone has any questions about funding our CIP, I'm going to turn it over to Carol Ellis, our CIP coordinator, to go over the individual projects.
Any questions? I'll just make a statement, and you can correct me however I misstate. So our airport has the FAA, for instance, gives us a lot of money, and they do that because we qualify because we have an enterprise fund that we don't try to make money off of our airport as much as we meet expenses, and therefore we're eligible for the FAA helping us to a significant amount of money. Somewhat correct?
I've never heard it phrased that way.
Mayor, if I may,
Go
so as a FAA-sponsored airport, we do have an enterprise fund where the airport operates out of, and yes, it's essentially a not-for-profit operation, and we reinvest any profits that we do have in the airport that promotes general aviation and the enjoyment of aviation, promoting aviation.
And why does the FAA continue to give us more money then?
As a federally sponsored airport to promote aviation
And if
in
we
Boulder City.
made a profit and didn't use it in the airport, the FAA wouldn't like that.
No, they would not.
And then they wouldn't give us money.
Correct.
And they give us a lot of money because we do it the way we're supposed to do it.
We do.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good evening. My name is Carol Lellis, and I am the CIP coordinator. Nice to see you. And I'm gonna go through the fiscal year 25 projects by department, and if you have any questions, please let me know. The fire department has 2 projects for a total of $1.1 million, sorry. And the fire department classroom and adjacent parking, this is $1 million would be from the sale of Track 350. And then there's an additional $300,000 in fiscal year 26 to complete that project. And that's timing is by how we would receive the funds. And the police department, the crowd protection barriers, and the CAD RMS total $400,000. The parks total $5.7 million. With the pool, 5.2 is the beginning of the design. And that is in conjunction with the presentation that we received a few months ago. The Boulder Creek, there are the 3 water conservation projects that right now are showing at $1 per project, and we are looking to get the final quotes on those that we would bring back before tentative approval in January. One thing you'll see different also is that in the past we've had our golf course equipment as one total amount, and in this we're actually breaking each piece of equipment out. The municipal golf course is similar, and it has the equipment separated instead of as one total number. And that's a total of $379,473. Public Works, this is further water conservation for city facilities. That $100,000 will be an ongoing project so that we can address the water conservation into the future also. And the RTC assigned revenue project, that is the amount we will, as the projects are identified each year, we will actually bring them to council for approval, but the total amount for that is $1.6 million. The Wells Road levee lining and the Avenue I storm drain are 100% funded by the flood control district. The cemetery for $65,000 for a new replacement mower. Airport, the air traffic tower design was moved from fiscal year 22 into fiscal year 25. Electric, you'll notice we do have the line trucks separated, and the projects, the majority of these projects are very important to the completing the conversion from the 4 kV to 12 kV on our electric system. Water, it's a total of $800,000. The copper service replacement is an ongoing project that we had moved money forward, but we did, the Utility Advisory Committee had a great suggestion, and we did move money into there so that we can continue in fiscal year 25. And wastewater has a total of $604,000. Something we did different this year is we implemented a public outreach site asking for public suggestions, and we have that will be a permanent fixture so that people year-round can give us those ideas. And we've had a total of 147 suggestions, and I think the most exciting thing for me was the fact that many of those suggestions were already in our CIP. A lot of it was water conservation, which we're focused on, and a big suggestion point was for the playgrounds, and a lot of that equipment is already on order. So to look at those suggestions and see the public being involved was exciting, but also seeing that a lot of that information was already implemented in the plan. And what we do is when those suggestions come in, we divert them or distribute them out to the departments so that they can evaluate if there's something that's an operating suggestion that can be handled right away or something that we can put into the CIP. And then we've also focused on evaluating the best use of city space, which we've identified as meeting rooms, storage, and dedicated safe key space possibly in the future. The timeline for the CIP starts in August, and right now we're looking at a staff-led resident workshop tomorrow, and then the finance team will meet and adjust the plan, and then we will bring it back in January to look for tentative approval. The final approval is with the budget, the operating budget in May. I think I went one extra. We have a CIP email address that is checked on a continual basis for any type of questions that the public may have. And we have a direct link to the draft digital budget book for capital improvements. And on our finance page, we keep prior years up, and then we also keep the tentative, and then we'll replace it with the final that's approved. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you for that presentation. Beginning the question with a statement, I appreciate that we've been seeking community input over these months, and 140 suggestions, and some of them are duplicates, some were already on the minds of staff. That's fantastic. And we'll keep those, right, as we continue. You mentioned the staff-led town hall meeting tomorrow, 5 p.m. Can you confirm the location, please?
Right here.
Right here in council chambers. So
Yes.
anybody who's listening or will watch it between now and tomorrow at 5, tomorrow at 5 p.m., another town hall meeting for the citizens right here in council chambers.
Correct.
Thank you. One thing that I didn't catch, what were the playground upgrades that were suggested and that are on the CIP?
A lot of it was the playground equipment. So like at Del Prado Park, at Oasis, and the timing was great because when we were getting these suggestions and we give them to the Parks and Rec Department, and our communications department actually puts it out and shows what we have on order and when it may be done. And I think that collaboration has worked really well to get the information out there.
Specifically, and this may be a question for somebody.
Probably
from
a
Parks and
Julie
Rec.
if you want
Yeah,
or Roger
Julie.
if you want an exact location.
Well, come on up, Julie. I believe I've heard that there were some requests for also shade to be a part of the upgrades. Is that part of what we're looking at?
Right now, we have not purchased any new shade structures. There were a couple of requests for that, of course, because not all of our play structures have that currently. So if it doesn't come this cycle, it's definitely on the list for future CIP projects. But to answer your question from earlier, the parks that we already have playground equipment ordered for are Broadbent, Veterans, and Oasis.
Thank you. Yeah, and I don't want it to seem trite, but we do want to encourage our youngsters to get out and be active physically in the outdoors and have equipment that's safe and enjoyable, and it's very important to the community. You know, we look at the whole spectrum of our ages, and that's an important component of it. I appreciate that we had a lot of suggestions about water preservation and efficiency there, and as we keep these suggestions and as we, in the months to come, enter into future planning, strategic planning, I'm sure we'll be able to pull those out and look at those as part of that as we continue forward for what additional things we might want to put on there and consider from the citizens. So thank you for that. Mr. Mayor, that's all I've got.
Thank you. Any other questions, concerns? Go ahead.
I just had a question regarding the fire classroom and adjacent parking funding being attached to Track 350, the 1 million. Is there a secondary plan if that doesn't go through up to that point?
We do have other options that we have identified to allow for that project to move forward.
Okay, and also just the fact that there's 81 total projects and 46 of them will be done in 2025. And I know it's been mentioned that there are a lot of little projects, and that's why it's only 24 million. But a project is a project is a project. And so this is amazing, and I look forward to seeing that number dwindle as we get the 46 done and move on to the others. So thank you.
A big difference for the larger numbers are the breaking down of the golf course equipment separately, where in the past those were 2 projects. So that's a big difference on the numbers too.
Nice. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Sherry asked my question. Thank you for answering it.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. We have had then the discussion of the draft CIP for the fiscal years 25 through 29. Any other comments on that? I would accept a motion to accept the report.
There's no action needed.
Okay. So we've heard it, and then we'll move to item number 12, and that is the city council appointment of the mayor pro tem, or maybe in this case a reappointment, unless she has some other plans that she'd like to share with us.
No, I'd still be interested. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, before we go into the nominations, if you will, maybe we could hear what, if you feel it's appropriate, a summary of some of the things that have been done by our Mayor Pro Tem in the last 12 months and how that's been effective and served our community, fulfilling that role.
I think that's an excellent idea, and I'll start with that because you opened the door.
Thank you.
The Mayor Pro Tem sits next to me, and the Mayor Pro Tem is very gentle with her comments and her concerns and her corrections, to the point that nobody knows how she is so smart and clever and subtle. And I appreciated her abilities to make sure I stay on track and I do the things that I'm supposed to do as the mayor. And as the mayor, I appreciate her service. So I'll open that up to anybody else who wants to say anything,
That's you, Sherry.
including the Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I'd love to hear some of the things that you were involved in and how you participated in the community instead of our mayor. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity to just say, just recently I went to the Veterans Home, was able to speak there. And I've been able to attend ribbon cuttings alongside or in lieu of. I've also been able to present keys to city on occasion. Majority of the time, whatever the mayor asks me to do, I try to step up and do. I ran a meeting one time for him. So I feel very fortunate to be working alongside Mayor Hardy, and thank you for your kind words. Just have enjoyed the opportunity to serve.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Or I would accept a nomination.
I'd like to nominate Sherry Jorgensen for Mayor Pro Tem.
Is there a second?
I'll second that nomination.
Moved and seconded, and is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. It is unanimous in the affirmative. Thank you very much. Appreciate your service, Councilwoman Jorgensen. We'll move to number 13, City Manager's Report, Claims Paid Report.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight, item number 13 is the City Manager's Report, and this is the claims paid for the month ending October 31st, 2023. There's nothing of note in this report, but I'm here for any questions you may have.
Any questions?
If no questions, I'll move to item 14. This is the City Manager's Financial Report, also for the period ending October 31st, 2023. Additionally, there are no items of note to bring up this evening, but I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? No. Seeing none, thank you for your report, and we'll move to public comment. Anyone who's interested in public comment at this time can call in. Or here in the council chambers, come up and use the microphone, identify yourself. And if you call in, it's 702-589-9629. And is there any written public comment, Madam City Clerk?
No written comments were submitted.
Thank you. That phone number is 702-589-9629. And if there's anybody here who would finally like to get up, they could get up and say something in public comment. And if there isn't, I will wait patiently, very briefly. We have somebody.
Public comment.
Hi, my name is Brian Stokes. And can I go ahead with my comment?
Yes, you may.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm one of the former hangar owners, known as one of the 28. Down at the Boulder City Airport. And I spoke to the mayor a few days ago, and he suggested I call in. But the last meeting that was held was on item number 8. I think it was agreed that they were going to do another hangar appraisal to try to get us some kind of extension that would be fair and a fair rental price on a long-term basis. So with that, I thought possibly timing was good, but I wanted to express the fact that we all, the 28 of us, lost our hangars, and we're being treated differently than the people that are right up the street from us that are doing the same thing, have hangars, and are going to get to keep their hangars, and they are going to get a long lease and at a very acceptable price. So I wanted to state that this is highly prejudiced, we feel. We're being treated differently, and we're actually equal folks down there. And the impact of losing that hangar down there for a lot of us was in the hundreds of thousands of range in dollars. And if that would ever happen to anybody, any individual that would lose that kind of money, it's a terrible blow. It's not something that we saw coming. A lot of us had faith that the council and the mayor at the time would give us our extension so that we could keep our property. So with that, I'd like to just conclude that if studies have shown that the impact when hangars are taken away from owners, usually commercial operators move in, and the aviation part of this thing suffers. People can't buy and sell hangars, buy and sell airplanes, and it actually affects the economy of the airport. And finally, I want to restate that we were treated differently, unfairly, with prejudice. And I think we really deserve to be made whole, and I hope that this will come up on our town hall meeting, which is scheduled in the future. So I appreciate you taking the time and listening to me, and I'll say good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other people on the persons on the call? And anyone else here would like to say anything? And no written comments. I will close the public comment, move to City Council's report. Start over there with you, Councilman.
Why, thank you. Excuse me. A couple of items of note. In January, we have some commission positions that will come to their term conclusion. And some of them may seek reappointment, and some may not. I don't know who will. It's not really significant to my comment, but that there's 2 for the Planning Commission and 2 for the Parks and Rec Commission that will be coming up. And so if anybody's interested in serving on either of those commissions, we encourage you to come to the city clerk's office and to fill out a volunteer form, learn what the requirements are, which are not significant, and anybody in the community could serve, and how to put your name on the list to be considered. So I'd like to make that public invitation. Also, to make the comment again during, and I appreciate the invocation was made in imploring that we are recognizing of our opportunities to serve those around us, particularly during the holiday season. Emergency aid donations are down when compared to recent years, and so encourage our citizens to think if that's a way they might want to share and reach out to our fellow community members. I'd also like to make, Mr. Mayor, a special recognition during the holidays. The business of life continues, and there's substantial sacrifice made by many people in the community to continue to do what needs to be done for our fellow community members during the holiday season, and in many cases sacrificing of their time with their families or in other pursuits they might maybe rather do during the holidays. So specifically those folks that work in public health, we appreciate their sacrifices of continuing to be on duty around the clock. Public safety members, all inclusive there. Those community outreach groups, both the nonprofits and religious groups that continue to sacrifice their time and finding ways to help give, to lift those in our communities during the holiday season, especially, and to sacrifice their time that they might otherwise enjoy with the family. So really there's a lot of people, and I probably left some out, and I apologize for that, that continue, and all of our staff here in the city continue to do the things necessary to keep the city running, particularly those that are on call in public works and in the related departments that will to be on call, and maybe at the drop of a hat be asked to go out on Christmas Eve to do some work in the community to help make sure that we have our utilities. I'd also like to make just a brief mention of the activities coming up this week. We have Friday evening, and I'll leave this to the community members to find the exact times, but I'll at least make a brief comment. We have the lights turned on at what we affectionately call our Christmas house on 5th Street, and then our community tree lighting, and then on the following Saturday, Santa's picture and the railroad train begins, and we have the parade this coming Saturday, which we're so grateful to all who participate to make that happen and who are involved in that, and all who come to enjoy it, the Doodlebug Bazaar, Parade of Lights, and on and on. So we encourage our community members to be involved. There's no shortage of enjoyable things to do to celebrate the holidays for all, and to invite your friends who might live over the hill to come enjoy a little bit of peace of Boulder City. So that's all I'd like to say, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm pretty sure that Councilman Walton looked at my notes. I will not have to mention the Doodlebug Bazaar or the tree lighting or the parade because that has already been mentioned. I do want to continue along in the vein that he did of gratitude, which we just had Thanksgiving. There's a lot to be grateful for in this community, and that extends to those who work in our city, those who live in our city, those who serve in our city, and we're so very, very grateful. I know that I just had a chance to serve at the Senior Center for Meals on Wheels. If any of you guys are interested in going down there to serve, it's very gratifying. It's a wonderful opportunity to share with the senior population in our community. Also, I know that Boulder City Aid has a tree down at the credit union, an angel tree, and that this year they've had almost double of the amount of people that are in need. So if you're looking for an opportunity to possibly help someone in need, that's an opportunity that you could take. I'm sure there's many more, and just like Council Member Walton, that I might be missing them, and I hope that I'm not. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you for not leaving any community member behind this season, and for reaching out and caring for them. You know who they are. They might be your neighbor. Just take that time to make sure that they know that you're there. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think Councilmember Walton also looked at my notes. I think we had those all down. Part of Doodlebug, if you're new to Boulder City, is it's a craft show. They're all handcrafted items, and it's going to be Saturday from 9 to 4, and then after that is the parade. And so it's really exciting. It's my favorite time of year, Christmas, and seeing all the lights. And I can't wait to see the Musgraves serve their home on 5th Street by Southwest Diner. They're just an amazing family that do this every year for us. And so it's going to be an exciting weekend. I can hardly wait. Thank you.
Thank you. We've just checked off things. I will say that we have our Assemblywoman and our State Senator who will be in the parade walking with the City Council, and so I recommend that you, I'm not going to say accost them, but make sure that you come up and meet them because they want to know what your concerns are in our state legislature. They are invaluable to us. We have, as a City Council, we pass things out. And this year, we're going to pass out what they call stress bracelets, but they're actually a de-stress bracelet. They have little things you pop in and out, and so anybody who would like to come and have less stress in their life, come get a bracelet. City council people and staff will be passing these out. And I also would say on the tree lighting, I don't know if you're aware of it, but our city manager has a secret identity, and that's all I'll say. But we invite everybody to come in a safe way and participate and be aware that when there's a parade, people dart in and out, and we want to make sure they don't sacrifice their life getting a stress-free bracelet. If there's anything else, if not, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.